Hi guys, and welcome back. We're going to try and finish these windows here and actually get these doors done. The door handles, I bought those. And of course I got to do some touch-up paint, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm actually just going to go ahead and finish the assembly. Try and get this license plate light on. My goodness, that is so hard to do on these. I've never done one that's this hard. So I've tried super gluing the gasket on. Let's take a look here. So I let it set overnight with the gasket on here, super glued. I don't know if it stayed in place. Hopefully it has. Not really, but kind of. So anyway, I'm going to try and super glue this on. The gasket on, because it keeps on falling off while I'm trying to put it on. It's really hard to put these together. And get this back on there. Of course, I'm not going to do this off camera, but I wanted to let you guys know how difficult it is. And then the studs need to line up with the holes, and of course they don't line up the greatest, so I have that issue as well. And then the other thing is, these big spring deck lids are such a pain in the ass. They barely stay up. So if you're sitting there working on this thing and you just barely touch it, it slams shut, and so far it's slammed shut with the wire sticking out and cracked the filler right there. So I've got that issue. Those are the sort of things that you got to fight with on these early ovals. It's just every single part I put on. Literally, you guys that are watching wonder, why is it taking you so long to assemble an oval? It's way harder than any other car I've ever assembled. It's just way more work. Each part takes a lot of time to put it on, and you have to do it 2 or 3 times usually before it is right. So it just literally is taking hundreds of hours just to assemble the car. So anyway, this is one of those things that's just a real pain in the ass. So anyway, I've got it. I'm not even going to try to put the light assembly on. I don't have one. So yeah, there's that issue as well. Trying to sandwich that thing in there, I think it's going to be like near impossible. I think what I'm going to make is just make one that works on one of these studs and then has a light there. So, and it had a cover on the inside of these too, that of course I don't have, that blocked the light from going to the engine compartment. But it kind of would be nice. It wouldn't be bad if it had that, and you could just pop on the lights if it was at night, and you'd have that would also light up your engine. So like you could just put them on the parking lights and pop this thing up, and then you could actually see. One of the things I'm also going to get, just so you guys know, is they have these. Of course, they have these deck lid stands. It's just a stainless steel bar that goes up and around. If you've seen them at some of the shows, goes from right here, goes up, kind of goes around here, and back into this hole. And that's something I really need. You really got to have one of those with an oval, to especially a big spring where it's, you know, it can just fall right down, hit you in the head, smash your hands. You know, it's a real pain in the butt because the deck lids just didn't stay up. Poor design. Obviously, they changed it later because of that reason. So anyway, we'll put some parts on. We'll show you as we go. I'm also going to include the rest of the window assembly, I believe, and the door assembly on this. The other thing I'm waiting on is on these wind glass. Originally, they had a rubber that goes in this groove here, and of course that's not available. So, you know, I've done it before with silicone, and the issue with that is trying to cut the silicone off. You always end up with a residue, and it just looks bad. So what I'm trying this time, instead of silicone, is I've got some of the butyl in a caulking. So it's like the regular butyl tape, but it's in caulking, so it stays. What the butyl does is it stays it stays wet, sticky forever. It never really completely dries. But eventually what happens is the outside surface of it kind of dries enough where you can kind of touch it. So after a few days, so I'll put this Beetle caulk in here in the groove in here. I'll put the glass in and I'll let that sit over a few days, and then after a few days it seems like it kind of, the outer surface of it kind of what's it called, dries a little bit, and then you can kind of take a razor blade and cut it out a little easier than you can the silicone. So I'm going to try that this time. If you want to try using flat rubber, you have to put it on the glass, around the edge of the glass, and then try and press the window in. I'm going to tell you, you're in for a major fight. And the other thing that I will usually do, on this one I couldn't, but normally what I'll do is I'll take the old, like on the buses and bugs, I do it the same way. I'll take the old rubber out, carefully take it out, the old rubber. If I can keep it in 2 or 3 pieces, I'll actually put it on the new glass, or on the glass with the new painted window frame, or new chrome one in this case, and then put the glass back in with the old rubber. So that's the other way I'll do it. But this time there was no rubber left. There was just, it was just crusty and junk that I pulled out, and the wind wings were just so rusted out. So they were so rusted that I didn't even know if he was going to be able to save them. He actually was able to do a good job on the chrome. I was really surprised he was able to do that. And I was able to get those so that I could put windows in them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take this Beetle, fill it in the groove, and put the glass in and let it set for a few days. I'll talk to you guys a bit later. You guys might wonder why I don't put that little water deflector part in. Ones I have are completely shot, when you put the Beetle in here, it really doesn't leak. So I don't know what the idea of that is. On the buses, I don't do it either, and it does. I think it makes a little less wind noise, so that's what I do. Just do it that way. And then the caulking, like I said, this right now, if I just touch it, it'll just string. But in a couple days, you'll do this. This is how they do commercial building windows. So they use butyl caulk, and they put them in, and it takes, I don't know, about 30 days for it to really, doesn't cure. It never really completely cures. It's always kind of, the surface will be, where you can touch it and it doesn't stick, because we mask them off all the time. So if you mask off those windows, a lot of times you'll put the tape on them. It'll stay on them and stuff, and sometimes it'll fall off. Depends on how long they've been in. And then, but it'll be kind of weird when you go to tape it, so it doesn't completely dry. So anyway, but at least you can get the glass back out by just dropping thinner on it or something like that. You can get the glass out and taking paint thinner and dissolving it a little bit, and you can get the glass back out. And you can do a better job of cleaning it up once it's dry. It still is a pain. It's really hard to get off. But if you let it dry for a few days, it's a lot easier. You can kind of take a razor blade and cut it out, and it's a lot better than silicone. The silicone, I found it always left residue, and I was sitting there scraping. I could never get it off, and it just never looked good. So anyway, it takes a lot more time to do that than this. So it just takes a little more patience, because you got to wait for the stuff to dry, and it takes a long time for it to do so. But it seals really good too. So it seals, Beetle really seals excellent. That's why they use it in the glass industry. So anyway, it's probably the best way to do it, I think. I've tried a lot of different ways, and I just tried this first time. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. All right, so yeah, it's been like, I don't know, a long time since I've assembled one of these. So forgot a few things, and now I'm kind of relearning them. One of the things I realized, it's so much easier to remove the rivet and just put a stainless steel rivet in later, that's what I'm going to do. I think that's how they did it from the factory. They had a rivet tool. They just popped them in at the end. Because if you're trying to put this thing together, you need to start right here. Because what I did is I started over here, and I didn't quite get tight enough against where it's supposed to go. I mean, we're talking about, it didn't seem like much, but the time I pushed it all the way in, all the way along here, it walks forward, and then it was not lined up here. But if you start right here, if you pull the rivet out and you start it right here and you screw this thing in place and you work this way and you work that way, this is going to be the right place. This hole end up in the right place. You drop your mirror in and then go from there. It does take a long time. After doing a lot of work putting this thing in, I had to take it all the way out. You know, that's assembling these doors, again, is really not easy. It takes a lot of time. You just got to be ready to spend the time, you know, do it. Guys that do them, you know, 2 or 3 times, 4 times, and did them all the time. We didn't do these all the time, even at the shop, and like, you know, did mine. I remember doing mine, an early 60s bug, same as this. But this 54, of course, is a little tougher than, it's always, the tolerances are just a little bit tighter on these, and they loosened them up later to make it easier to work on. So anyway, that's the method. Start with this, work out that way, work out that way. I remember now doing my old bug, doing it that way, and I tried to do it the other way, and if I did it that way, I had to cut a slit in here, then the window didn't shut right. Just easier to start from the middle, work out. A lot of people say, oh, the new rubber doesn't fit like the old stuff did. It does. It actually fits the same. The problem is most people don't install it the way I did by taking out the rivet. If you take out that rivet, it centers itself better. Like if you don't have the rivet out and you try and put this bracket in, okay, that's all was done in the factory. They took that rivet, they put that rivet in afterwards. I'm sure of it. After doing this, and if you try and just weasel that thing through the hole, it'll work. And you get it, put it in there, and put the screws in. Then you got to put this end in. Actually, you got to put this end in first, and then have it up here. And then you have to start working it around and get it around to here, and get this in, and then working it up that way. The chances that you're going to get all of it in correctly are pretty slim. So if you do it the way, if you take out the rivet and put it in, it gets in there really perfect. I got to push it down right there. See that little hump? I don't know, it still looks like a little hump, but anyway. But you can see the edges, how that they're really even and straight. This is not a scratch, it's just something I'm gonna have to repaint it, because when I do the inside now, I already got touch-ups I gotta fix. It's not a scratch or anything. But yeah, then if you see how even that is all the way around, it just looks flowingly perfect the way it was originally. That's why it comes out that way, because you start at the rivet and you work both ways. That's what I remember now. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Oh, okay. The bus the same way. If you start at the rivet and you move this way, that way, it's a lot easier. You cut out this little part for the thing here, which I did not get chromed. It was like too much money, so it's going to get closed like this, and then you just go like that. There, it's gone. So I got to put this little piece in, little piece of pinch you put in here and shove that in the bottom really good, shove it in the top really good, and then start working that in. So one guy said that you could start here at this. Yeah, you could probably do that. Start here if you did it centered over and came over this way, and then put in this bar, and then put in this one, or put in before you put this bar, and you put in this one, and then do the outside. So you could put this in first if you wanted to. It could be done either way on this. Okay, I've always done these after. I always do this one first, that one on the outside one second, and then I do this. Okay, then I'll put on this little piece here, this thing here goes up in here and hangs on this little hole up here. And you're not going to get that thing in after you put in that window channel. So you got to get it in there, hang it on the hole. Takes 2 hands. Hang this little tab, goes on that hole. You get that in, then shove the piece in. And I think you got to do that before you screw this in. Forgot that I did that on the other one. I screwed it in ahead of time. Put that whole piece of channel in. Make sure it's all the way in the groove. Where you screw up and you have to put your first screws in over here, is you don't have it all the way up in there perfectly. And then you put the screws in over here, and you end up taking these ones back out. So you got to kind of start with these ones to get this molding to go down flat. So you do this one, and then there's 2 up here at near the end. And so I do like this one first, that one second, and then push it in again in here, and hopefully I didn't get a gap up here. It always seems to happen. And sometimes you got to do it twice. So I said these doors are much harder to assemble than anything else. Anyway, we'll get on it. Another thing I forgot to mention is that I think they make these for the 65 and later as well, the inside ones. So you have to cut them to fit. So put them in, figure out where the end of this thing's going to be, the inside, this wiper right here. Because otherwise you end up doing stuff like what I'm doing right now, is trying to grab this thing out of here. You got to use these things, grab it out of there and cut it after the fact. Much easier to do before you put in everything. Of course, I've got everything in. I have to take everything completely back out to be able to take this wiper out and cut it. So I'm just trying to figure out how to do it while it's in. Again, using these things here, hold it up, get my razor knife in there and cut that off. And then there's the wire too. The wire that goes through there is too long on these, so you got to cut the end of the wire off. I already cut this end of the wire off. I could pull it up over here, cut it off. Now this one here, I just realized I could use these to get it out, so I'm just going to use those and grab this, then grab the wire out, cut the wire, or tuck it behind this, because it can't be just rubbing against the glass. That's no good. All right, so I lip one side end and the other. I think most of you guys know this. And just kind of work your way along. And it takes a lot of energy to put this in. That's why I got, if you have the wind wing out of the way, that's how they did it in the factory, I'm sure. I'm sure they did. And then you got to push it all the way in. It's not all the way in. Like, there's a little section right here I got to figure out once I get this whole thing in. What's going on there, because it's just a little bit of a lump, and any bit the wind wing won't work properly, so it's a pain. I've had guys tell me that these things don't fit properly. It's because you gotta start at the hinge and work your way up and down both, and once you do that, you'll get it to fit perfect on the top and the bottom. But like I said, they did it with the wind wing out of the way. So if you got see if I can get you guys to make sure it's in frame. If you've got, I guess it kind of is. If you've got the pin in here, and you're trying to set that first to get the pin in, and then you put the hinge piece on, it's not gonna work the same as if you just put on this part first and then start lipping from there. Then it fits beautiful. The Wolfsburg West stuff fits great. No issues. That's why you see the high-end show cars. What some guys will do is they'll actually I push up on it. So your really wide screwdriver is the best thing to use. So I get it in the groove, I'll push it up, make sure it's all the way in. It has to be all the way in or it ain't gonna work right. What guys do is they'll get there's a decorative rivet you can get. I don't know, they'll use the new decorative rivet and they'll put it in there. You can get those somewhere. I don't know where. I haven't sourced them yet. I'm just using regular stainless ones. But there's a way to get a decorative, original looking rivet. Kind of. It's not exactly the same. But yeah, there's a little spot right there. Just not lipped over. It's all got to be there. One little spot will cause it not to work. Just a long process, lipping it over, go to the other side. Can't really film it because it's just so slow going. Go to the other side, lip that side in, check it, pull it back like this, and look at it. Get your reading glasses out if you can't see as good as I can. I can't see very good, so I got to get my reading glasses out. I'll look in here, behind here, and make sure it's lipped over all the way in the groove, all the way around perfectly, and then put the glass in. And when I put that in, it should be able to just open and shut, no problem. And you'll see it should be able to go all the way shut towards against the rubber. Sometimes you have to leave them in for a few days and kind of let the rubber kind of break in a little bit, but usually it'll work just fine when you do it this way with the piece out. I've tried it the other way, and yeah, the results just aren't as good. So it's better if you have this, the rubber in first. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. So again, before you put in the window regulator, you need to make sure that this thing's in. This is for the vent wing so that it works. All right, so you can see it works. And it's got this thing here. You know, the later models have a little bit different one that's down a little bit lower, but you got to put that thing in first. And on these early cars, you have to fit that thing on there because they're too tight. The factory, a little bit of dirt on them over the years and everything else. You have to take a file and take it on and off. So before that vent wing goes in, got to fit that sucker, make sure it fits on the end. And then put that in. I put the screws in here. You can see inside there, there's a screw here, here, two up here. You can maybe just do one if you want. Depends. There was just like two right near each other, so it doesn't really make sense to have two there. If you just put one, it'd probably be fine. Then this should look like this out here, where it looks really clean, virtually flawless. Around here, this thing fits really nice and tight. The rubber's real even. There's a couple of scratches I got to fix. I already knew that. I got a way to mask them without. Just gonna mask them, do a little, make a touch up. I can do that later, another time in the future here. I'll be doing that. Got touch-ups all over the car, little ones. So anyway, now I'm gonna put the window in. This goes in next. Then the regulator. Again, each piece takes a lot of time. So, oh yeah, I got to put some glue on this here. I got to put glue on here and cut this thing shorter. You can't really see it, can you? This thing here has got to be glued in. I got to screw it in, cut it shorter before I put the glass in. Everything has to be done in a certain order. If you do it out of order, you will be taking it back off and doing it again. So let's repeat the process here. You can do this first if you want. You got to start right here at this little bracket. I start right here and work this way and that way. The little bracket right here, because that has to line up to the hole, and then this one finds itself from that. And then this one goes in first, because it's really hard to get this one in once this one's in, the outer one. The inner one goes in first. And while you're putting it in, you need to cut it shorter, because usually they're longer than what you need. So I cut it to where it fits here, and cut it to where it fits there. Cut this into the little spring thing off, unless you have the original ones. And maybe they're correct length, but they're usually a little too long. You got to cut them off so they don't interfere with this thing, the felt. Okay, so that's got to be in place first. Then the outer one. Then this thing goes in after. You slide it up from underneath, and before you put the felt in, you screw this thing in. These will already be, this thing will already be screwed in. I removed the bracket from the window. It makes it a whole lot easier. You try and do it with it, you're probably going to get this thing here in crooked. You'll probably have the bottom not line up and the top not line up, and you have to stretch out the hole to get the bracket through. They did it beforehand when they built it. Okay, so then after that, so we did either this first or this first, this one, then this one in. Then after that, you put the felt in. Well, actually, you got to put this little bracket here that holds down here first. Underneath here, there's this channel. I'm going to say the channel goes in first, and then the weather strip here. This one here, I put on before I put this in place. I'll put it in the groove, okay, and then I'll put the bar up in there. So you put that in, then you can put on this one either before or after that. You can do that anytime. This little piece of rubber here. I don't know if it's all making sense to you, but it has to be done in a certain order. And then you put this in, screw it in. After that, put the glass in, then put the regulator in, put these two screws in, and everything should work. Now, the next thing I do, that's the door lock, duh. Next thing I'll do is, before too long, this thing's kind of tight, right? You hear that screechy stuff? Goes down pretty easy, up fairly easy. Now the next thing I'll do is, I'm going to do that in the near future, is what I learned is use baby powder, talcum powder, and put it in the grooves here, put it in on the rubber. It'll help dry it out, and it makes it slide up and down. I have no idea how that works, but it just does. Literally, it'll be like really hard like this to go up. You put the talcum powder on there, and slides up and down. We'll show that a little bit later, maybe in this video. So, I'll show you how that works. I've just learned that. That's what Chris used to do. And man, he would get these things right, like perfect. They would work so good when he was done. One thing I always hate these tops. It's really hard to get this part to line up, because when you're putting that screw in, this has to be over tight. And yeah, so you always, you can get a little bit of a gap here. That's all right though. I'm fine with whatever's here. They always had little gaps in them, so that's why they did, because that's how it's assembled. Yeah, I'll stick the glass in real quick. It's oh no, I can't do it yet. I gotta follow the rules. Everything's got to be in order. So I got to get this thing cut and screwed in down here. This little 10 millimeters got to be in there, and this has to be cut shorter. They always give you a little bit too much. And what I use to do that is I use a cutoff wheel, because anything else will squeeze this thing. then it won't work properly. So it'll make it hard to put the glass in. So I'll use a cutoff wheel and cut this with a cutoff wheel real carefully down in here. About right there. Alright, so I got this support thing on for the handle. This thing, I made this, and it's really a bad place to... The way they made that thing is terrible, but I got it to go alright, and it doesn't look great, but looks a lot better. I can heat gun it a little more. I tried to heat gun it, and it's just foam wrapped with vinyl, so it doesn't keep its form very well. When they made them, they used like a some sort of like wallpaper grade vinyl for that part, so it was real thin. It wasn't like the door panels. So anyway, but it was the same color, so we can't buy that material now. So anyway, we'll get this thing put on, take a look at it and see how it looks. All right, so here's the trick. Baby powder on all the rubber and in the channel. I don't know what it does, but you can ask Johnson & Johnson. They ought to know. Probably why they got sued, some sort of thing that makes it stay on the rubber. I don't know. Wipe it all over. The insides of these things is what I'm trying to get it on. See, what happens when it goes down, it sticks. Not now, though. You can see it just goes up and down like nothing. Before it was just getting stuck. You just kind of take it up and down a few times. Wipe it on. All over the inside of this rubber. Or touch the glass into the channel. Because there's sticky old rubber in there from whatever shelf life and whatever. And this kind of just soaks it up, and what I'll do is just put it up. This is from Chris, you guys. Chris taught me this. And you just blow it off. You don't want to get it wet yet. And you can see it just goes right up and down now. It used to stick and it was all horrible. Working up and down a bunch of times. You might do that a couple times after you do your windows. And then eventually when you wash it, it'll be fine again. It's just, I don't know, it's just something that coats the inside of this thing and makes it nice and slippery. So anyway, we'll roll this up. That's where it's going to stay. So anyway, talk to you guys later. All right, you guys, check this out. I got the original one. Man, those things went, I think they went way up in price. They used to be pretty cheap for a new one. They're really expensive now. So anyway, that's how she shuts there, working good. That's with those grafted hinges and all that stuff. I had to do the hinge carriers, all that. Lines up pretty good for something. Remember, it was roached way out to here. So, lines look all right. They're decent. And it shuts amazing. Let's do it one more time. Go inside and open it. Oh yeah, I gotta show you guys something else. So this thing, I guess you're supposed to be able to do that without having to do that, but anyway, it doesn't work that perfect. But I used the Beetle, like they did originally, to keep that thing from falling out. So yeah, we got a few unfriendlies in here. We got a spider. Okay, let's see if it does it on its own. Ah, there we go. Yeah, I think I did that right. That works for me. All right, I want to show you guys something here. What I noticed is on the early car, this one and this one had to be wallowed out a little bit. The front two lined up exactly in the center, and then the back ones are different. And if you look here, the little bit later original fender has this little cutout. And if you look on this side, this one goes straight across. You see how it doesn't have as much of a cutout? It's still there, I guess, but not as much. Look. It's just different. How the bolt looks closer. I don't know, it's a little bit different. Let's see if we can see it again. Yeah. It's like up here, but the bolt is in a different place on the other one. So like it's up higher, but it looks like it's the same distance. Anyway, had to drill another hole because it doesn't fit. It looks like, you know, this is way off. So maybe the early cars had, this is an original fender. The other side is not aftermarket, but it's later model. So on the early car, these ones are off a little bit. So it's just something a little different. So anyway, we'll take it down and take a look at it. So yeah, it looks pretty neat with headlights in it and the horn grills. I don't know if I showed you guys those. And I got the emblem in the doors. Hopefully they don't. I always gotta check them on the running boards, make sure they don't rub, or you'd be buying new running boards again. Then, whoop, definitely airtight. Gotta push on it. Oh man, it wants to blow the air out. So yeah, it's pretty good with the windows in. First time I had it with the windows in. So, and they work good. Let's see if you can see the door panels. It's all kind of dusty right now. And you know what? This is another thing I was going to show you. This is the position of the 54 door panels. I think the other side was never off. So that's how good it works. It works pretty good. Again, this got to shut them kind of hard because they are just airtight. Really good. So let's take a look here. Let's see. There's a rub. No. And the door panel on over here. Looks pretty nice. This door panel I don't think was ever off this car ever. And that's the direction. That's the way the door is. And if you notice on the early car, you push down to unlock. Let's sit inside. Okay. Sit inside here to open the door. Push down. The other car, remember, here, I think it's they lock forward, right, when they're down here on the later model cars, and then they pull back to open. So this one's opposite. So that's how they were. It's kind of weird. You could be just driving down the road, and probably why they changed it. But if you put the handle down here, it's like really close to that. So it makes sense that they put them in this way. So I lined up these both like that. So when it's shut, both go like that. So I think that's how it was. Kind of interesting. You guys wanted to know. I never knew. I had to go back to the old videos and look at the car before I took it apart. And that's what I saw. So anyway, these are the rubber mats. I just footprinted it, but you can see the ends of them the lines don't go all the way up, and they're actually rubber. They're not plasticky stuff. And that's what came on these earlier cars. It came, I think 1960 was the last year they had the rubber ones. So I bought a new set of running boards, and I ended up putting them on my green car because the ones on the green car started to rust and stuff really bad. They were original ones, and they just, no, they were done. Took them off. I was going to try and recover them, and they were done. So I took the chrome off of those and then bought new metal and new pads. I mean, believe me, these running boards cost way more than just brand new set because the way I did them with the rubber. So anyway, so the only thing we got to do now is put the bumpers on, really on the body. Of course, I got to do some touch-ups. Got to fix this big cracky thing. But what I'm going to do next, the next video, we're going to go ahead and end this one on this, is I'm going to put this engine in. I'll show you the engine. It's been kind of dusted out over here. All this, I'm going to clean up this whole garage area because I just haven't had time. But anyway, I've got this musty engine. I clean it off real quick. I'm not going to do much to it. It's got a 6-volt. It's got a 6-volt coil. We wired up a 12-volt one. Started up, made it run once. I know it runs. It doesn't knock or anything. All I'm going to do is put that in and use it to drive around. You know, just to do the first drive in it. Check the transmission, see if the transmission has any issues. You know, that engine's going to get rebuilt, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it, but I'm just going to throw it in here real quick. I don't know if I'm going to go like bigger, whatever. I don't know yet, but I'm just going to throw it in here real quick and get it to run in the next video, and then I'm going to let this car sit for a while until I make sure I have more money in the bank, which I have the money. I could buy everything, but I don't really want to. I'm going to wait a little while, then I'll put the bumpers on and all that stuff. So we're going to go overrider bumpers because that's what it had on it. So I want to go back to original. And got to get a horn button. It's a little money there. So that's I'm going to get that. I have the wipers. Everything for the car except for the bumpers and I think the horn button. So, and that's like $1,000 for those things, probably around there. So I just kind of want to wait a little bit. I'm not going to do that right now. And then the engine, again, I'm going to rebuild that, and that's going to probably cost $4,000 to do that because I don't know, those old 36ers are expensive to do. If I'm going to do what I think I'm going to do, which we'll talk about at that time, we'll see. It all depends on what I do, what I'm going to get. If I can find all the original parts for it, I may go original. If not, I got another plan, so we'll see what that is when we get to it. But yeah, the car's looking pretty good. I mean, the body lines look pretty good. I mean, that hood lines up a whole lot better than I thought it was going to. I need to kind of lift it up and push down right here. And then I think some of the lines will even come in a little bit tighter. But it thumps really good. I showed you guys earlier in the video that thing just shuts super good. For one that was as bad as it was. Remember, there was rust all the way up to like right here. All the way from the bottom. I had to cut it all out and replace it. And that's a very hard panel to make and fix. So, yeah. And then we just got to get a battery for it. That's, oh my goodness. I can't even believe how much they are right now. 6-volt battery. Oh, it's going to cost me a fortune. So, anyway. Got to get a battery for it. And I'm going to make it so it runs. And then I'm going to rearrange this area here and clean everything out of here. I've been doing it little by little, but I had to get all the fenders and stuff out of here first. And then I'm going to rearrange everything that's in here. Put that engine in here so I'll have some space over there. And I'm going to clean everything up. I got a plan to clean this all up. And I'm going to put the 2 cars in here. Put one in over here and one in over there like I used to have. And then like I'll put the bug over here. There's plenty of room for a bug on this side. Once I get everything moved around and situated. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about the car so far. And I'll talk to you on the next Will It Run and Drive. Be fun.